47, he is reversing the age process. And that's kind of aligns with my story. And it's very close to Mark Sisson in that I was a professional athlete. I was for 15 years and just bombarded my body with exercise. And I have still been doing it for 30 years. So at about my mid-40s, I woke up one day, and it seems to be like that's the time period when it started kicking in. And I would get out of bed, and my joints would hurt so bad that it would just take like an hour for me to kind of get moving. The bottom of my feet were really sore. I had like these, it felt like I was walking on like sore red eyeballs. That's the only way I know to explain it. And I had this chronic hip injury, and the doctor wanted to go in there and grind that stuff out. And I just thought that's the price I was going to have to pay for 30 years of exercise. And about that same time, we moved to Townsend, Tennessee. We moved from the concrete jungle of Orlando and to live this slow life in Townsend. And at that time, I had more time to read and research, and it just happened to be about the same time that all this new research was coming out. And up to that point, I was really bored with nutrition. I mean, I could tell you the macronutrient content of every food, and if I don't know it, I can guess it real close. Macronutrients, that's the proteins, carbs, fats, calories. I'm like a little computer in here, just for 30 years of doing it for myself and for my clients. And I had it down. You know, I was kind of bored with it. So when I had more time to do some research, I started reading. I think the first book I read was Omnivore's Dilemma, and then I watched Food Inc. and read The Paleo Diet by Dr. Cordain. And just, you know, now we have this huge library. My husband's on this journey with me. That's my husband there, 15 years. I come home one day and he's sitting at the table in front of this computer and he goes, "Look at this guy." And I look at the computer and there's like tan, blonde, Southern California guy with his wife, and it happened to be Mark Sisson. And after reading through his site, and I had read, you know, all the current research, because we've been doing all this research about that saturated fat does not cause heart disease, and cholesterol is not bad for you, and you don't have to count your calories, and grains are bad. I was ingrained with my schooling that with conventional wisdom that just wasn't true. So it took a lot of research and a lot of time for me to come around to that way of thinking. But I read his story, Mark Sisson's story, and how he got off grains, and all of a sudden, you know, all those aches and pains from being an athlete all his life went away. So that's the first thing I did. I got off all the grains, and voila, here I am, 53 years old, and I have no aches and pains. The bottom of my feet, my hip injury is just gone. You know, if I could sell something, I'd be like, yeah. But it's just simply getting off the grains, right? And that's what did it. Another thing that really surprised me that I didn't expect was all my life, I've been really allergic to cats and dogs. I mean, to the point that if I walked into a house that had a cat, my eyes would start watering, and I'd start sneezing. And if I petted a dog, I'd break out in welts all the way up and down my arm. And I just realized one day I was no longer allergic to animals. So, and we'll talk about that and why that happens later.
Just from giving up grains?
Just from giving up grains. That's all I did at that point.
Okay.
No more wheat. It's awesome. So exciting.
All grains or just wheat?
All grains. I just got off all grains. Wheat is the worst. And the thing is, I saw this with myself, but I've also seen this with all my clients that'll do what I tell them to do, right? You know, I do have people in the gym that come up to me, and I call them ask-holes, because they ask and ask and ask and get all this information, right? But then they don't do anything about it. You know, they're kind of wasting my time. So if somebody listens to me and just does it, they all see the kind of changes that I'm talking about. But another thing, when I started eating more fat, you know, that was a really scary thing for me, to start eating saturated fats. But I started doing that, and 60 to 80% fat intake is what my diet is now. And all my life I've had these blood sugar swings where if I did not eat every 3 hours, I was a beast. And Harry can attest to that. I was a beast. Look out, Penny's got to eat. But not only would I get like grumpy, but I'd get weak and shaky and almost start feeling faint. And I swear if I would have kept on this carbohydrate roller coaster, I probably would have been like the skinniest diabetic. So I've been doing this for about 5 years, and about 2 years into it, I'm going, golly, what if it's all true? You know, your family and your friends are always going, oh, I can't believe you eat all that butter and all that coconut oil and all that lard and all that bacon. You know, it's going to kill you. You don't know what you're doing. And, you know, and something in the back of my head was always saying that. But I knew that I felt amazing, that it made a huge difference in my energy level. My skin felt better. I didn't wake up with puffy eyes anymore. My hair got thicker. So I knew that it was good, but there was still something in the back of my head going, you know, you're probably clogging your arteries, you know, you're getting saturated fat. So I went to the doctor, and I said, give me a full workover. And I did the treadmill test, I had him do all the blood work, and he sat me down, he goes, Penny, you're perfectly healthy, there's nothing wrong with you. And I said, well, can you take a little camera and look inside my arteries? You know, is this something you can get in? I want to make sure that my arteries aren't getting clogged up with all this saturated fat that I'm eating. He said, well, we can do a calcium score test, and that tells the amount of calcium deposits that are in your arteries. So he did that, and it came back as 0. And that was 2 years into it, so we've been doing it 5 years, and that's kind of when I stepped over the line and became a true believer.